Hi everybody, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL. I'm very happy you can join me today. Today's topic actually comes to us from one of my graduate students from Clee, from the States. One of our superstars. So Clee, thank you very much for this great idea. She emailed me this morning with this idea. I just wanted to mention before we get started that I apologize for not putting out a video in the last few weeks. I've been quite sick. I actually had the flu, and you can tell I can still a little bit of the tail end of that, but I'm doing a lot better now. But yeah, so I just wanted to apologize for that because I'm getting a lot of emails from people saying, "What happened to you? I hope you're still alive." You know, and yes, I'm alive. I'm partially alive at least. Okay. So today's topic is about the differences between the right and the wrong way to be critical towards your own work. One way can destroy you, and the other way helps you grow. But they both come from the same family of thought, i.e. criticism, critique. Okay? But there's two ways of looking at the word criticism. One is constructive and professional. The other one is just flat out insulting and destructive. All right? Now, this might seem like a very obvious subject. You might be thinking to yourself, well, this is kind of an obvious subject. I mean, it's kind of obvious where you're going to be going with this. Yet, over the centuries, we have continued to do this over and over and over again. And we're most victim of being the most damaging to ourselves than we are to other people. I'll give you an example. If somebody, artist number 2276, we'll call this artist Bob, comes up to Adam and says, "Adam, can you have a look at my work and tell me what you think?" And I look at it and I go, "All right, let me show you something, Bob. You see this? You see this website? You see all these artists on this website? Okay, on ArtStation. You see how freaking good these guys are? Look at what they do. Look at the rendering. Look at their composition. Look at their design. Now, look at this shit. Look at that. Look at this. What do you see? That's really freaking awesome. This is garbage." And I mean, I don't even know where to get started with this. This is... How old are you? Oh, you're in your 60s. Okay, dude. Just go home. You missed the boat. Go home. You screwed up. You're done for. Okay? No. This is garbage. You're never going to amount to anything. These kids that can paint circles around you, they're in their teens. All right? So get out of here. Okay? Now, in a million years, do you ever think that kind of feedback to somebody would be at all beneficial to that person or to the art industry at all? Of course not. It's ridiculous to even say so. Now, there's a lot of people on those douchebaggian forums that will give you responses like that, and I have art talks on that if you want to go check them out. Forums to avoid type of idea. But in the real world, where we're talking about real people with real DNA and real thoughts and feelings, that's never going to happen. Yet, we talk to ourselves like that every single day, don't we? We sit down and we do work on a painting, and you're looking, maybe you're learning, maybe you're taking, Anthony Jones's mentorship or Noah Bradley's or Tyler Edlund's or mine or whatever, and you're painting, you're sitting there going, and you're looking at Anthony's work. I know a lot of you do that. He's good, right? You look at Anthony Jones's work and you go, fuck this, and you just hate, you look at it and you look at what he did and you did and you just hate on yourself, right? And you bash on yourself and you call yourself an idiot. You tell yourself you suck, that you're never going to succeed, that there's too many people that are out there that are good. We do this all the time. This is very common, all right? We have to learn to replace that negative voice in our head with something else. It's not enough to tell somebody to have compassion for yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, okay, I'm not being hard on myself, but I have to grow somehow. I have to do something to help myself grow. So what I want to do is teach you the techniques to criticizing your work properly, effectively. And this is something that more senior artists generally have a tendency to do more comfortably. That's why you very often see artists like Clee, who've been doing this for the last 20, 30 years, have the ability to be very critical and very open and very candid about what works and what doesn't work in their paintings, because they realize they've learned the right way of doing it in a way that continues to motivate and push them forward. Okay? So what is it? Well, it's the ability to step yourself outside of your work and look at your own work as if somebody else showed it to you. And when you look at it, you learn to break it apart into the positive and the negative. You learn to analyze your work, and from a professional perspective, look at your stuff and say, what does this need to improve? Okay? The word suck never comes into it. It's you're there yet or you're not there yet. And what do I need to get there? All right? What do I need to get there? Well, I'm looking at my drawing and I'm thinking, okay, well, I like the overall form. I like where that's going. The textures don't really match. It's kind of like I have this, you know, I look at it and I go, okay, well, I like the form. And the form has this kind of like jagged type of rocky, kind of gnarly type of feel to it. But the textures feel a little bit too soft, too much like fish scales or something like that. It's not matching. Okay, so what do I do to fix that? Okay, well, maybe I can get a little rougher in my texture, integrate some of those square, spiny edges into my design language, into the scales. So you do that and you work on the scales and everything. Like you look at it and you go, okay, what do you think now? Well, I like the form better. I like the design language a little bit better, but the contrast is way too high. It really feels like this very like jarring texture. It's really messing with my sense of depth and realism. It feels too light dark. Okay, knock back the contrast. Wash it down a little bit. Better. Okay, that's in a good spot right now. Let's move on to my forms. What do I think of my forms? Well, overall a bit bland. Okay, well, let's add some more dynamic shapes to it. So you add more dynamic shapes to it and stuff. You go, ooh, now it feels overdone. Okay, so let's knock it back and make it halfway. You're analyzing your work. You're imagining looking at somebody else's work, and you're giving them a very instantaneous, a very instinctive response on what's too far, what's not far enough, what's too strong, what's too weak, so on and so forth. And you're working towards that balance. Now, this relates very closely to one of the things I tell my students all the time. One of the ways that I teach. Now, there's two different schools of thought when it comes to teaching. And you might find you thrive in one or the other, but I'm going to illustrate them so you can kind of start to analyze yourself and see where you might find you're the most productive. There's one school of thought, that kind of Inktober type of school of thought. Produce 8,000 pieces of work. Go, 30-day challenge. Go. Painting a day. Every day. Go. Okay? The bottom line to that, the whole premise behind that is, the more I paint, the better I get. And there's truth to that. You're going to force growth, right? If you push long and hard enough, you will eventually move forward. To me, that doesn't work for me personally or in the way that I teach because I don't see the sustainability. I'm 40 now. I know that growth artistically is an endurance race. It's not a boot camp race, you know? It's not a short sprint. It's a long run, okay? It's a marathon. It's not just a 100-meter dash. So to me, that type of mentality doesn't work. So the way I like to approach my work is more of every single time I sit down to paint, I sit down to paint my next masterpiece. Always. That's my goal. My goal is always to outdo myself. I don't care how long it takes me. Now, of course, I don't want to spend 6 months working on a painting like I did with King's Harem. That was an exception, right? But I always aim to create my next masterpiece. And in the process of producing that next masterpiece, I have raised my standard. So I look at the way I draw hands. I look at the way I play with composition or texture or skin or form or design or color or any of these things, and I look to push the bar. So I paint it, and my body has gotten it. I've been painting for a long time. I have habits. I've got a break, right? So I paint it, and I find myself falling into that same pattern that I normally do with color. Okay, so I step back and go, okay, what's wrong with the colors that I've picked? Okay, I've got too many saturated colors. I need to knock it down a little bit, get a little bit and start playing around with those muddy colors a little bit. So I start getting a little bit into those muddy colors, and I look at it and I go, still feels too saturated. Okay, knock back the saturation. How does it feel? Okay, now it's too desaturated. Now it feels very bland. Now I need that punch, that one jarring splash of color that makes you go, that excites you. Okay, so Red Sox. It's a bit flat red. It feels flat. It feels very cartoony. Oh, well, maybe I need to vary the reds within there and create a little bit more movement and energy within that red. And that's how I move myself forward in that specific aspect. Then I move myself off to the hands. What do I think of those hands? Well, technically, they're accurately drawn this time, better than usual. But the colors, I don't see any personality in those hands. I want to feel the femininity of her hand with the the very red fingertips. I want to feel that fair skin. I want to be able to catch the gloss of her fingernails. That type of idea. So, I want to capture the delicateness in it. Okay. So I do this, I do that. No, it still looks too masculine. What did I do that's too masculine? That bone in her finger. She's got that Leo claw thing going on. Okay, well, what if I soften that and bring that thumb in a little bit? And I manipulate that hand slowly but surely until it becomes what I want it to become. Until eventually I look at it and I go, got it. And honest to God, I didn't at any point in time look at the clock, ever. Now, in the process of overcoming that one obstacle, in the process of producing that one piece of artwork, and this is something I've mentioned in talks early in the past, I have learned 20 things in one painting that I could completely not learn in 60, that I just pumped out at high speeds. So that, to me, is a method of learning that I find far more beneficial. But when I look at my work, I don't look at my work and say, those hands are shit. They suck. No. I look at them and I say, does that work or not? And I go, no, it doesn't work. Okay, what doesn't work about it? Well, they're too big. Okay, so make them smaller. Now, does it work or does it not work? Still no. Well, what's wrong with them? The knuckles are a little bit underpronounced. I find it looks very kind of rubbery and tubey. Okay, we'll pronounce those knuckles a little bit. But I'm not really sure what knuckles look like. Okay, well, let's look up the bones of the hand. Let's learn about the metacarpals and the phalanges and all the knuckles and the joints. Find out about the veins. Find out about the muscles of the hand. Start to learn on that project of painting those hands. A project within a project, right? And I learned how to draw the hands in that particular... I've learned about the muscles of the hands. Next time I draw hands, I'm going to remember that stuff. That stuff is going to be added to my visual library, right? And I'll be able to paint them better. And so on and so forth. And I move my way through that. At no point in time did I say, you suck, Adam. No. I said, no, you haven't gotten it yet. What do you need to get it? Here's the next ingredient. Try that. Does it taste good yet? No. Here's the next one. Try that. Ooh, too strong. Okay, take it out. How about this one instead? And you work your way forward towards the end of your piece that way. It's a way of stepping outside, taking your ego out of the equation and just looking at yourself with an unbiased attitude and saying, what do I need to make it better? What do I need to not make it better? Okay? But there's a few things you have to remember to avoid doing in the process of being critical. Number one, don't force yourself to know everything by heart. That's a very big mistake that people make. They avoid reference. When reference is really the key, might very well be the key to overcoming certain obstacles. Maybe you're drawing a creature and you're doing the eye, and the eye, you just can't get that eye to look right, and you keep redrawing it, you get more and more frustrated. Why don't you go and look up some pictures of eyes, the type of eyes that you're looking for, and analyze, okay, I was putting the shadow here when I should have had the shadow like this, and on the eyes, and maybe the eyes too big, they should be squintier and more rugged looking, more tougher looking. And I can see the brow. I brought the brow up like this, but I should push it in more and do all these types of things. And there's creases here, and I didn't realize there was muscle there. You realize these fine details. That's number one. Sometimes you need to use reference to overcome that obstacle, to learn. Okay? The other thing you have to remember to do is to not try and be somebody else. There's a lot of Noah Bradley and Anthony Jones and Tyler Edlin and Chris Oatley and Cynics and Scott Robertson, and the list goes on. All of these fans out there. And I am a fan right there with you, okay? I love these artists. I love, Sam Nielsen and Bobby Chu and Kea Sedera and Tom Fluharty, and name all the guys at Schoolism, and all of them, I love them too. I've got their books, I've got the pin, okay? Don't worry about it. But what I've learned in 40 years is I will never, ever try to be them. Because there's a very strong temptation. As artists, we are very visual. We're very emotional. We're very impulsive. And we can look at somebody's artwork and go, I love that. I want to be able to do that. Okay? Yes, copying other people's work, learning from other people is a great tool. But when your artwork doesn't look like theirs, that's where you have to draw the line. You don't always learn to look at your artwork as an individual, as a unique piece of artwork. Whether you're using somebody else's technique or not, always look at your own artwork and see the quality and the merit in itself. Because you will always have the habit of drawing certain ways that you will never be able to break. I look back at the last 20 years of my career and realize there's stuff that I did when I was 15 that I still do today. It's a part of my DNA. Yet, I integrate different techniques into it. I learn from other artists all the time. That's what we're there for. That's what the community's there for. But if my work doesn't look like, if my work doesn't look like Anthony Jones's work, or it doesn't look like Scott Robertson's work, or it doesn't look like Feng Zhu's work, I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up about it. I'm going to celebrate my differences, but appreciate that one technique that I got from them that I could integrate into my own work, or that perspective that I could integrate into my own work to help me grow and reach that next level with my own work. Okay? So those things you have to be conscious of. It's perfectly fine to learn from other people, but don't try to be other people. You'll never succeed. You'll never be them. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is they're never going to be you either. So you can learn from them, they can learn from you, but in the end you have to be unique from each other. And this is something that I do with my students all the time. Very often, especially at the beginning of the course, I'll ask my students, especially when I see that they're newer to the industry and they haven't really established themselves yet, I'll look at their work and I'll say, which artist do you like, right? And they'll say, oh, I really love Anthony Jones's stuff. I love it. I'm such a fan of his work. I hear a lot of that. A lot of fans of Anthony Jones's work. I say, okay, cool. I love him too, and and what do you like and not like about your own work? Well, I really like this piece I did. This was kind of going in the right direction, and that one, and this one sucks. And I'm looking at it and going, that's interesting, because in my head I'm thinking that's probably your best piece of artwork. So I asked them, why do you think that one sucks? And they said, just the rendering sucks and the muscles are no good and the design language is crappy. And I'm like, oh, the design language is crappy. Oh, that sounds a lot like an Anthony Jones critique. Are you hating on that painting because it doesn't look Anthony Jonesy enough? Or are you hating on that piece because you have a higher standard and that one didn't reach it? You have to be able to distinguish between the two. All right? That's very, very important. The third and last thing that I want you to remember, that I want you to take into account, is don't believe the hype. A very good example is just on CBC this morning. They were having an article. This is fresh news right out of the bucket type of idea, that apparently back around 40 years ago, I guess back in the 70s or 80s or something like that, apparently the sugar industry had paid off some well-known university, I think Harvard or something like that, to publish an article stating that fat was at the core of heart disease, okay, of obesity and heart disease. The sugar industry had apparently paid off this university to release this article. So screw you both. Now, anybody who's conscious of health, who follows health news and stuff like that, has known forever that, of course, fat is not bad for your body. In fact, you need fat, you need healthy fats to lose weight, right? And probably the most toxic thing you can put in your body is sugar. My grandmother, when I was 5, my grandmother told me the worst thing in the world you can ever put in your body is a soft drink. Stay clear of that stuff. And my grandmother was traveling and on her 2 feet and doing all kind of gardening at 99 years old. All right, so she knows what she's talking about. So that's what the hype was. That's what quote unquote they said. Okay, you know that infamous they, that cloud of wise people floating around in outer space that bestow wisdom on us every 30 years and then go back 30 years later and go, oops, we were wrong, right? Like everything that you hear, the FDA say as far as a healthy diet's concerned, when all the health nutritionists say, if you want a healthy diet, take everything the FDA say and reverse it, and you've got yourself a healthy diet because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That kind of they. Well, we have a they in the art industry as well. And God only knows who they are. Maybe they are something that Feng Zhu said 15 years ago in a video, or maybe they are, some article written by some elitist jerk on some well-known art magazine that doesn't even exist anymore said, and and that stupidity has been passed down from generation to generation. All right, it's kind of like a forest fire that's taken a very long time to burn out. And once we find that finally burns out, we can look over the pastures, we can go, wow, this place didn't look anything like we thought it did. We've just avoided the truth for such a long time. We've believed what we've heard for so long that we've been going along with it. Okay? One of those famous days is taking a long break from your artwork can destroy your career. It's amazing how many artists that say these things with this very obvious undertone of humiliation when they say, I haven't painted for 3 whole days. And it was the longest 3 days of my whole life. And I'm sitting there going, 3 days? My longest dry spell was over a year. Okay? I was overwhelmed. I was overworked. I was tired. I had, my job was it wasn't an artistic job. It was art related, but it wasn't artistic. And it was sucking up all my energy. And I had, young children in the house, and I just didn't have a stitch of energy to get any painting done. And I didn't get any painting done for over a year. When I picked up the paintbrushes, I was a bit rusty for about 4 days, and then I was right back into it where I left off. I have students, because I teach students of all ages, everywhere from like 14 years old all the way up to 70. And where they tell me, I'm in my 70s now, and, I haven't really kicked off my career and everything like that. I know I kind of I lost my chances, and I'm sitting there going, according to who? Who are they that said you can't start a career at 65, 70 years old? Who are these people? I've seen people accept their first Oscar at 80, and they laugh, yeah, I know I was a late bloomer, but what are you going to do about it, right? They accept their first Oscar at 80 years old. Shit happens. People live lives. That's totally normal stuff. What's important is that you always remember you're an artist. Okay? Always remember that you are and always will be an artist. My mother's a perfect example. She was a fine artist. She ended up getting a degree in computer science. And then when she retired, she went right back to painting again. Like she never left off. And she's as great as always. Okay? This is totally normal stuff. If you have a dry spell for 2 weeks, if you've got the flu, I had the flu last week. I didn't do any painting. And you know what? I'm still alive to tell the tale. All right? I didn't do any painting for almost 2 weeks because I was sick. And because every time I sat down at my desk to paint, I went, screw this, I can't even think straight. And I went and I laid down and I watched some more Game of Thrones. That's what I did. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's no age limit. There's no age to start. There's no age to finish. Chuck Jones painted his last mural days before he died. He didn't stop painting. He kept going. It's what he does. It's what he loves. So don't be so freaking hard on yourself when you're going through a creative, dry spell. That's perfectly normal. And whenever you find yourself saying, they say you should be able to finish a painting within 2 hours, and if you didn't, blah, 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 blah. My question to you is, who the fuck are they that said that? And if they said that, then they're a pack of morons. Because anybody who has the audacity to write the rules of art aren't artists. They're bureaucrats. Okay? Because a real artist is a 90% intuitive creature that go by their gut. And when their gut tells them to push it in a certain direction, they go with it. Sometimes it's a period of thoughtfulness and observation. Sometimes it's a period of technical exploration. Sometimes it's a period of unstoppable productivity, and you learn to respect and push those moments in your life to their fullest so that you can get the most growth out of it. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed my talk today. A little long-winded as always. You know me, I like the sound of my own voice. But remember, I've got an online mentorship, and I want to mention something very important. I've got a big batch of openings coming very, very soon. Usually it's kind of a first come, first serve type of thing, but it just so turned out that a lot of people signed up all at the same time, so they're all going to be kind of ending around the same time. So within the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of openings, so I suggest jumping on it soon. So you can get the best of it. All right. So remember, there's that, and there's also the Brush Sauce Theater with myself and Tyler Edlin. I'm going to leave the link to the competition where you can get professional free critique and a lot of free exposure to your artwork. It doesn't cost you a penny. We're not trying to exploit you as artists. We're trying to help you grow. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed, and take care. Bye bye.